Tucker Carlson had some harsh words for CBS News' new editor-in-chief, Bari Weiss, as well as billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman.
Speaking on Theo Von's podcast, Carlson started by ripping into Ackman, whom he's already criticized in the past. The two feuded over the summer when Carlson suggested that Ackman's contributions have been unimpressive and also useless. He echoed those comments again here. Let's watch.
Bill Ackman, same thing. Bill Ackman's worth like $8 billion or something. It's fine. I don't care if Bill Ackman, whatever Bill Ackman does, but I know Bill Ackman, he's kind of dumb. He's not ever created anything. He's totally non-creative. How do these people wind up running our biggest institutions?
Carlson then turned his ire to Bari Weiss, questioning her experience and suggesting she doesn't deserve the position of power and influence that she's found herself in.
If you pay close enough attention and you realize that the people running everything are stupid, then you think, well, actually, the system is truly rigged on behalf of people who do not deserve these positions at all. It's not just that I disagree with Bari Weiss or she's calling me names or I'm calling her names or whatever. It's like in no fair system, in no meritocracy would Bari Weiss rise above secretary. Like actually, and I mean that. I've been in this business since Bari Weiss was breastfeeding, okay? There's no world in which Bari Weiss rises to the top of a news network except a rigged world.
Carlson's comments proved divisive on social media, some accusing him of hypocrisy. Writer and reporter Corey Walker said, someone that was born into lavish wealth, East Coast boarding schools, spent their entire adult life coasting around cushy TV jobs, complaining that the world is rigged and not meritocratic, is hilarious. And Senator Ted Cruz alleged anti-Semitism, asking, is there a Jew who Tucker does not hate?
Later in the podcast, Carlson and Vaughn discussed the FBI and its handling of the investigation into the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk. Both agreed that they've lost confidence in the Bureau, and Carlson defended people such as Candace Owens, who have disagreed with the official story of Kirk's death.
The FBI has this case, and of course the state of Utah. It's their job to not only find out what happened, but present it to the public in a way that restores some confidence that you can have justice in this country, that we have functioning law enforcement. I don't have confidence in that because there's a lot of evidence that we don't have that. So restore confidence by being honest and telling a story that makes sense. So why, and if they don't do that, and they haven't done that, they have not done that, how can you be mad at Candace Owens or anyone else for filling a vacuum that they left?
Carlson did clarify later the reason he distrusts the FBI is not because of Bongino or Patel personally, but because the Bureau extends far beyond just its leadership. Let's maybe start there and then circle back to the other stuff, which I think we'll discuss in greater length. Okay, but I also have criticisms of the FBI and law enforcement and those specific people, Don Bongino, Kash Patel, who Tucker likes. But the FBI is doing exactly what he said. They are explaining what happened. They apprehended the suspect within 2 or 3 days. They have collected tons of forensics evidence suggesting that Tyler Robinson is the killer. They have the gun. We watched it happen on tape. They have a motivation for the shooter. They have messages they've released in which he explains why he conducted the shooting. It is an explanation that fits, that makes sense, that doesn't require any sort of dramatic leap in logic. He disliked Charlie Kirk's anti-trans opposition to transgender, the things Charlie Kirk says about that, which were very provocative. He was in a relationship with a transgender person. He explained that he thought it was hateful and something needed to be done about it. And there's tremendous forensics evidence to suggest that he did it. So if you're mad, what are you? You're just mad then that the FBI has released a conclusion when you would rather it be some vaster conspiracy, I guess, involving Israel or whatever the Candace Owens is suggesting, which is just nonsense for which she has has presented no evidence other than she just wants it to be more complicated than all the evidence suggests. So it's not really that confusing. They're doing exactly what you say you want them to do. So then I'm forced to conclude that you will reject that in favor of some outlandish theory because you either want it to be an outlandish theory or that's better for your viewers want it to be outlandish and you feel captured by them. I don't know, man. It seems pretty straightforward to me, and I'm sick of pretending it's not. It's just straightforward.
I'm certainly not going to rally to Candace Owens' defense generally, or in this particular specific case. I don't think she has really produced any evidence at all to back up her many Byzantine theories about all of this. I think those are pretty much fairly absurd. I do, firstly, I take the point about just not trusting Bongino and Patel, who are essentially podcasters or sort of MAGA figures who now are in these extremely responsible, extremely serious roles. And we have seen in both cases there being kind of missteps or things that they have handled quite poorly, not less so in relation to the killing of Charlie Kirk and more so in relation to other cases or the conduct, for that matter, of the Epstein thing, which we have talked about at great length. I do think that rather than this being like all about the substance of Tucker and Candace versus like Bongino and Patel, to me this is just, from the outside, the way the kind of right and online right in particular has developed, where you have very, very inflammatory and self-promoting figures just constantly going at each other, and to no really great effect, other than, I suppose, it draws attention to them. It certainly feeds clicks and views and all the rest of it, but I don't think we necessarily get anywhere from it.
On the other point, I also disagree with Tucker on this, and again, he's someone whose views I've often found a lot of validity in, because I think he is tremendously talented, and he is an example of someone who, yes, and who admits, he never says, I made it all on my own. He always acknowledges that, yes, he was tremendously privileged in his upbringing and the wealth he enjoyed and the education he was able to get and the ins he had to conservative media because of that. So he had luck on his side, and he
had wealth on his side.
Yes, right. Wealth and the luck of being born wealthy.
Okay, right.
But then was also tremendously talented in the realm of magazine writing and then video commentary, and so has succeeded well beyond that. You need both. It certainly helps to be lucky, and some very untalented, very stupid people can get by successfully with the cover of that luck and wealth. It is true. I don't think that's maybe as common as some people make it out to be. And so when he says that, Bill Ackman is a moron, no, and it's not just because I disagree with his political views, it's because he's actually a moron. I think it is because he disagrees with his political views. I have a hard time believing that this, who didn't just inherit a fortune of billions, he's not, like, not everyone running everything in society is just a moron. They have views and values and priorities you disagree with that might be harming you. To just impute to say they're all idiots is, I think, itself kind of stupid.
Well, I think that Bill Ackman is an idiot. Now, I also disagree with his views, which may or may not.
But when you say that, you mean that his views are bad.
Well, I actually think that his
fractional knowledge of finance makes him a more... No, there's no way.
I assume he has to have some knowledge of finance, otherwise he wouldn't have the wealth he has. But it's not purely about him being, for example, very, very pro-Israel on the Gaza question, and I'm diametrically opposed to him in that regard. It's about the fact that when he weighs in, as he does at enormous length in tweets all the time, I often just think the basic line of thinking is not very impressive. And, we saw that a lot with the Mamdani campaign, which he was financing opposition to that. And it was just tactically, he's very unself-aware. Maybe that would be a better term than stupid. And he doesn't see why people have an understandable sort of recoiling from a billionaire trying to buy elections. And so that I think is part of the issue. Now, in general, with Tucker, I don't know anyone of any degree of maturity and intellectual honesty who thinks that we really live in a meritocracy. It doesn't matter where...
Not a pure meritocracy, of course.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, it doesn't really matter where you work or what your professional life brings you into contact with. You see people who don't really have the requisite talent or ability to be in the position you're in, and you also sometimes see very talented people who, for whatever reason, have not risen to the heights that those deserve. Tucker presenting that as some A, kind of stunning new insight, or B, evidence that society is sort of, that there's some dark forces conspiring against people. I don't think there's dark and mysterious forces. I think there are the forces of of wealth and social networks and all of that. But
I think he's transforming himself into a leftist before our very eyes, concluding that the system is rigged and that's why everyone is so dumb in power. And these are, on some level, lefty arguments.
Yeah, well, I mean, the argument that, I've often thought that social class is less prioritized in American political debate than it should be, because there tends to be an overestimation of the degree of social mobility in American society. And a lot does still depend on the circumstances into which you were born. The thing with Tucker is more this idea that he's magically discovered some web of deceit. I mean, these are very long-standing inequalities of wealth and of race and of social capital that have been known to affect outcomes forever, pretty much.
Let's make sure we don't skip the Bari Weiss part of this. I would defend her even more stridently than Bill Ackman, who I don't know that well and haven't followed everything he says. Again, Bari Weiss even more clearly, I know you disagree with her very strongly on Israel, and so do a lot of people, and that's fine. I disagree with her, at least partly, maybe substantially on that as well. She is not a stupid person. She is not someone who, but for, I don't know, so whatever sinister forces, I know what sinister forces he thinks are motivating it, but without sinister forces would not have risen beyond the rank of secretary. That's just not true. She is a very talented media operator. She understands the business of journalism very well. The free press on its own was a very, in a time of collapsing and failing media institutions, of her starting one that was doing well. You can argue that it still wasn't worth whatever they paid for it, and the sudden elevation of her to this level is some violation, is more political, or but she's not a stupid person. She's a good identifier of talent. When her job was at the New York Times, her main job was behind the scenes finding people to write for the New York Times op-ed section that were outside its normal liberal progressive milieu, that were interesting and provocative. She was very good at that. She rose her own media profile because she became known for doing that. She's not, you can disagree with her. She's not stupid. She's not untalented. She is not unworthy of a high-profile position in journalism.
I simply don't have a very strong view on Bari Weiss's talents or otherwise. I do strongly disagree with her on all sorts of issues. I had not really, until Tucker laid into her, I didn't love the secretary comment. I mean, that's pretty obviously sort of sexist. Yeah. And I simply don't have a strong opinion. I should mention just in brief before we wrap this up, I don't know if you ever do the segments that we do and then later think, that you didn't, that maybe you would say something differently.
All the time.
Yeah. So I was thinking last night about the discussion we had yesterday about Tony DeCouple is being made anchor of CBS Evening News. And I was fairly relaxed about that. And I think in retrospect, I wasn't critical enough of it. This goes back to an interview DeCouple did with Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I would still, in isolation, defend the adversarial interviews. I do think it was a bit out of keeping with the CBS or any morning show in its tone. But I think what I missed when we talked about it yesterday was within the context of Bari Weiss, her views on Israel, the battle within CBS News, the fact that DeCouple Coates interview was contentious, it is pretty clearly signaling by elevating him. It is, to my mind, really putting her stamp on the most prestigious news broadcast in a way that I do think is sort of gratuitously humiliating the older guard at CBS, and I don't think I made that point strongly, or at all, really, yesterday. So now I'm putting that right.
All right, then.
Meanwhile, Rachel Maddow urges Paramount to reverse its Stephen Colbert firing. We'll be right back with that.